Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Happy Wednesday and welcome back to our series on the Havamal. Today we're looking at verse 127 and we're beginning with the Olive Bray translation. It reads, I counsel thee, stray singer, accept my counsels, they will be thy boon if thou obey'st them. They will work thy weal if thou winst them. Rejoice not ever at tidings of ill, but glad let thy soul be in good. Now the second translation from vikingerg.org. Rejoiced at evil be thou never, but let good give thee pleasure. And then finally from Bellows, never share in the shamefully gotten, but allow yourself what is lawful. So this sentiment alone, I would think, is enough to put an absolute end and completely debunk some of the ideas that pagan detractors have about us, saying, oh, pagans, past or present, they don't care what they do, how they act, or anything else, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I would like to see them get that impression after reading a verse of this kind, where clearly it does make a difference, what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, the spirit in which we're taking both good and evil, the fact that we have a concept of good and evil. But let's continue on. So origins matter, whether it is something, an action that is taken, a good that we have received, or anything of that sort. Anything that is going on, how it originated actually does matter. Anything that is gained dishonestly is corrupted. And corruption, it's the concept that I have found absolutely impossible to separate from evil, because every form of evil that I have found, I've been able to identify, there's always an element of corruption. It's taking something that used to be healthy, good, or at least necessary, and twisting it, turning it into something that it ought not to be, causing needless, pointless damage. And the thing is that we know just from human experience that anything of lasting good does not come about through corruption. Anything that has been corrupted, it is carrying in the seeds of its own self-destruction, however long that process of self-destruction might take. And the practice of corruption, especially when it's over a period of years, that leads to nothing but evil. And I leave it to you. Just look at the daily news reports. You will see that. You will see how various forms of corruption have led to anything evil that is being reported. So let's talk about scruples. It's an old-fashioned word, and for those who may not be familiar, I take it for granted that most people watching my channel have a pretty good vocabulary, and they're very well aware of what it means. But on the off chance, here's the definition. Scruples is a feeling of doubt or hesitation with regard to the morality or propriety of a course of action. So it's looking at something and saying, that doesn't feel quite right. I don't know if I want to go ahead and do that thing. Now, some would have us believe that scruples are something that elderly relatives, particularly persnickety elderly female relatives, that's more so their area of expertise. And certainly I think there's a role for the matriarchs of a family to especially as they gain life experience and wisdom, to alert other people that perhaps something isn't quite right, to challenge their consciences and say, maybe you need to think about that again because of X, Y, and Z. However, even though you might have more scruples as you get older and you do understand how some things that you didn't think were really important, it turns out they actually were. But the thing is, having scruples, that's really essential for every living being. So many of our decisions are, is this good? Is this bad? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is it correct? Is it incorrect? And to not have scruples play a role in that, to not have that intuitive sense whether or not something is actually going to lead to a good outcome or if it's going to lead to an outcome you don't want. Without that, we are really blinding ourselves. There's a good portion of intuition that really does play into scruples. It isn't just about black and white rule following by any means, because again, the very definition implies that intuition, a feeling of doubt or hesitation of just, I'm not sure, but something's hinky. I can feel it. So definitely we should be listening to our intuition in moral matters. Now let's talk about goodness and how we can develop a preference for the good, and we do this through observation of things that are just inherently good, inherently wholesome, and reflecting upon that. And as we do that, we see it's not some too pure to be pink, goody two shoes, I'm better than everybody else kind of nonsense. Rather, we can start seeing virtue where it exists and why virtue actually is virtuous by, with a kind of fruitage that people reap from it. The outcomes, looking at the outcomes of ideas once they are put into practice, that goes a long way to helping us identify goodness and also to say, maybe I want to be more focused on this than other things. And it also helps to have example, to surround yourself as much as possible with upright people because they can help inspire your own actions. And if we find ourselves getting into a bad place where, we're making some compromises with our consciences that we will probably regret later, if we are surrounded by good people who actually care about right and wrong and they see us going down that path, they can help alert us, and sometimes they can prevent us from making a real mess for ourselves. And it helps to remind ourselves of what our standards are, and and that reminder can really help us have a reinvigorated desire to try to live up to our standards as much as humanly possible. And that is what I have for you guys on this verse. Let me know in the comments what you think about this and where your own personal thought process took you. I think that'd be interesting to hear about. But in the meantime, come back next week for verse 128, and I'll see you then. Bye.